Hey guys, welcome back. Episode 41. Thanks for listening to the show, guys. Check this episode out. This was Clark Aposhian. He is the gun lobbyist for Utah. This episode was incredibly informational. Something about this one I think you're really going to enjoy. It was a different little spin on the episode, man. It was in depth. It was good. It was good. I really enjoyed it. If you're a gun guy, if you like your Second Amendment rights, you need to check this show out. This is your show. So thanks for listening to the 27th Hour. Check out episode 41. Welcome. You're listening to the 27th Hour with Junior
and Dre Rocket.
Get ready, strap in, and hang on. Okay, we're on the right track. So you good? What's our demographic going to be after this? I don't know. Welcome back to the show. Open today with a little quick story about change. It's going to support what we're doing today. The story's called The Blind Girl. There was a blind girl who hated herself purely on the fact that she was blind. The only person she didn't hate was her loving boyfriend, as he was always there for her. She said that if she could only see the world through eyes, she would marry this guy. So one day, someone donated a pair of eyes to this girl. She could see everything. She couldn't believe it. I can see my boyfriend, she says. So he asked her, now, will you marry me now? Now will you marry me? You can see me. Will you marry me? She's our boyfriend, and she refused to marry him for whatever reason. The reasons are endless. He walks away bawling, and later he writes her a letter saying, "Just take care of my eyes, dear." Moral of the story. How true is this, right? When circumstances change, so does our mind. Some people may not be able to see what things were before, and they may not be able to appreciate them. So that brings us into
that's an awesome story.
Our world.
That's
Clark.
So awesome.
Aposhian.
Yeah, you got it.
I got it.
You got it.
Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Hey, nowhere. This is an experience being here in your studio.
Thank you.
I don't know. So it's on video as well, then.
Yes, it's all
okay. I'll wave to the camera.
It's all videoed, and it's all.
This is one heck. I mean, yeah. My studio couldn't even think of to have aspirations to be anything even halfway like this. This is so awesome.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I put a lot of work into what I do. I really do, and we're always digging at this show, the 27th Hour, with the help of Dre, my wife, my whole team, looking for good quality stuff. And it was actually Dre's idea to pick. He's like, let's get a gun guy on here. It's perfect time for a gun something. Like the gun shit in this country right now is unbelievably crazy right now. Let's get a gun guy. Oh my God, that's a great idea. So with the help of his idea and my wife's cultivating what she did, we have Clark sitting right here in front of us, and I am very honored to have you on, man.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. So, this is, if we're talking about guns, shooting or illegal stuff or whatever, it's always fun.
Dude, I really appreciate it. I've looked into a lot of your content, and what the funny thing is you came here 20 years ago and did our concealed weapons permits in this home.
That's amazing, yeah.
That was forever ago. So you've actually been to this home before, a long time ago.
I don't think it looked like this, though.
No. This wasn't here, actually. There was a big tree right here. Yeah. So this was never a tattoo studio. This was always just my home was on that side. So it's just funny how our paths crossed and how we've thought to look you up, I guess, would be the thing. But so, man, I'm glad to have you here. Yeah. We got a lot of cool questions for you.
Well, let's get on with it. I'm good to go.
Let's get these questions, and then I want to hear your story about what we were talking about a second ago.
Oh, yeah?
Because I had no clue. Let's go there first. Hell with it.
You do what you want. It's your show.
It's my show. It's our show.
Want,
Isn't it our show? I'll decide. I'm going to decide. Yeah. Dre's very much part of this. I'm up here talking to you, and I'm thinking I got all these really important questions with the laws and all this stuff. People can do that stuff. You are working with movie sets. Tell me that story.
So yeah,
that blew my mind, man.
yeah. So I did weapon handling on movie sets, and still do. I mean, I haven't done it in quite a while, but yeah. So if you've seen Independence Day or Con Air,
Oh no,
or
that's the smallest movies ever.
Yeah, some of these other
those?
ones that went straight to DVD. Actually, I did Touched by an Angel too. I did weapon handling. You wouldn't way back.
Are you
when.
serious?
Oh yeah. Touched by an Angel.
So tell me how that goes. Why do they need a weapon handler on a movie set?
Primarily, one, for insurance.
Okay.
And
They're using fake guns, Clark. Why?
Two, they want the actor to look like they know what they're doing. So that's, so the weapon handling comes, do you pick the right gun for them, or you show them how the action works, you show them how to hold it, you show them how to move with it, you do that kind of thing. And then if they are using anything that's remotely real, or even a gun that has been deactivated, firing pin's been out or something like that, then the industry requires somebody on set to look at it every single time. And especially, they don't use blanks so much anymore. Some of the lower budget ones, most of all, it's CGI now, or compressed gas or something like that. But boy, they are super strict as to
They should be, right?
handling it. Oh yeah,
Look what happened to Brandon Lee
exactly
in The Crow.
Yeah, exactly.
That I'm certain it wasn't around back then, right? He got killed on set.
No, they violated a bunch of rules on that one.
God, that was
absolutely.
disgusting. That was horrible.
Yeah.
That was horrible. That really changed my life.
So weapon handling is all part of that, and then helping the actors, helping what they call the talent, move with the guns the way they're supposed to. And I'm trying to remember, what was her name? She was in, I can never remember her name. But anyways, I'll think of it. But she was in Herbie the Love Bug, and she was a teen star and something like that. And anyway, she wanted, they had called me up, and her I don't know, her manager had called me up years and years ago and said she wants to move like Angelina Jolie with a gun. She wants to add that to her repertoire. So she knows how to handle a gun just like it appears that Angelina Jolie does, in Tomb Raider and that.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. Anyway, it'll come to me.
Yeah. I got
it's the old age. And so next, in fact, when I give you this backstory, maybe the name will come to me or come to somebody.
Okay.
She kept getting arrested for shoplifting or drunk driving.
In real life?
Yeah, in real life.
Okay.
And so I was all set to go to L.A. and spend a few days there teaching her, handguns, rifles, shotguns, that kind of thing. I get a call from her manager saying, Lohan, Lindsay Lohan.
Oh, shit. Are you serious?
Lohan. Yeah, Lindsay Lohan. I knew I'd think of. All of Miss Lohan's appearances will need to be on hold for a while. And then, so it lasts, about 5-6 weeks later, I get another call. We set up another thing. It's fine. Okay, I'm all set up. Next thing you know, the judge orders her to go to jail because for something else she did, for a shoplifter or something. And I was all set, so I, unpacked the bags, okay, fine. Next thing was another 6 weeks later, and I was supposed to meet her in Colorado this time at some resort or whatever. And I'm in San Francisco at the time at a convention, and I was going to leave from San Francisco to go to Colorado to do this. And I got a call from my buddy of mine, and he says, turn on TMZ.
Oh, God.
And there it was,
That's never good.
All over, and she's just gotten in trouble again. And I didn't even wait for the call. I just changed my flight, went back to Salt Lake.
Yeah,
and that's the last I heard of her. And that was over probably a 9-month period.
I think it's okay that Lindsay doesn't have a gun.
Yeah,
even on a movie set.
Yeah, at this point, I figured if they called me back, I was gonna probably decline because I don't want to be on TMZ as the person that was training Lindsay.
No, you don't. She can't even keep it together. Lindsay, get your shit together.
Yeah,
she was a good actor at one point. That blew my mind. You shook Nicolas Cage's hand in handcuffs.
While he was in handcuffs, I shook his hand, and I was holding a shotgun to his head too. So
you held a shotgun to Nicolas Cage's head on the movie Con Air.
Yeah. As he walks from the bus to the plane.
You're in black, you're covered.
And there's so much waiting. I mean, if you know anything about movies and that kind of stuff, it's mostly sitting around. And then it's mostly, take 1, take 2, take 3, take 40, take 50, something like that, until they get everything absolutely perfect. And so, yeah, there was a lot of standing around. I was a stand-in for John Cusack, which doesn't mean anything. All I happen to be is roughly the same complexion and height as him. And
That doesn't mean anything.
I would
That's
stand. Well, all it means is I
crazy.
would stand in the hot blazing sun on the tarmac
while he was in the air conditioning.
of the National Guard, airport there in Salt Lake, while he was in the air conditioning, so they could get all the camera angles and that right.
God, dude,
Yeah,
that's
that was
cool.
a stand-in.
That's kind of crazy.
Because I wasn't union, they could let me. They had me do all sorts of stuff. So in fact, I got hired to do the weapon handling on the set, and I ended up standing in for it.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Not many people can say that, Clark. That's the thing.
Yeah. But it was long days. It's real long days, and you got to do it for the fun. In fact, one of the scenes, you'll see some white vans, a couple white vans at the airport at one of the Con Air scenes. And I'm in one of those vans sleeping while it's because they had blacked out windows. And I says, yep, I'm in that van right now. You can't tell, but I'm sleeping.
I'm taking a nap. It's hot outside.
Yeah.
The other movie we talked about is with Dan Trujillo. I now remember.
Danny Trejo, yeah.
I remember my guy, DeMarco.
Yeah.
DeMarco, what's his last name?
Oh, he's the bodyguard.
Yeah.
He's the associate. Yeah.
That's DeMarco. He's been on our show. He's one of my clients. Very good friend of ours.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the name up there. I was trying to remember. I'm like, it just went blank for a second, but yeah, DeMarco.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you worked with Dan though too.
Danny Trejo was one fantastic. He's one of my favorite people I've worked with.
What
And I'll tell
that's
you,
what DeMarco said.
They're not all my favorite, but I like John Cusack. I think he's a jerk.
Yeah.
But I like his movies.
Sure.
Make no mistake. I really like him as an actor, but personally,
It is what it is.
I don't like him.
My favorite musician in the world broke my heart. I met Aaron Lewis from Stained. He's a Aaron Lewis. And God, if you know any music, you know Aaron Lewis. Yeah. And I've never met a bigger asshole in my entire life.
Is that right?
And it just broke my heart.
Yeah.
I just wanted to meet that guy with everything. And like, he doesn't owe me anything. But man, it was a really bad experience. And I'm sure it was an off day. So I'd love to, if you ever hear me, Aaron, damn it, let's redo this.
Yeah.
But I would have loved to, had that be a good experience. So I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that. But yeah, man, that's crazy. That was just a neat story. I didn't realize they used real weapons and stuff on set. I think that's really incredible. Yeah. That you're the guy that.
Yeah,
can
we
help
have
with
fired guns in some weird places. The Blue Iguana in Park City, fired shotguns, 2 12-gauge shotguns going off. We're walking down the stairs. 50 Cent Curtis Jackson.
50%.
50%. Curtis Jackson and Danny Trejo together walking down the stairs, firing shotguns. While there's actual, literal patrons in the restaurant eating and dining.
You handed them out earplugs.
We handed out earplugs to them. And
Can you imagine sitting on that movie set?
Yeah.
I think I'm good. I'd be like, God, like even with earplugs.
And it was during Sundance. It was literally during Sundance.
So there's people there.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah.
And it's full.
So we fired guns inside, with the cash store, the money stores. We fired. Downtown, Thanksgiving. The 2 days before Thanksgiving or Thanksgiving weekend or something like that.
There's people
downtown Salt
everywhere.
Lake City. Well, it was about 11 o'clock, so they roll up the streets in Salt Lake, and it was around 11 o'clock at night, and we're firing off shotguns right by what was the Hampton Inn at the time. And
do they have
so loud.
Cops there helping keep people under control?
That's a strange thing. So I'm not responsible for. I will do it, but I wasn't the one responsible for contacting law enforcement to let them know that, hey, we're doing a movie and there's going to be gunfire. What sounds like gunfire, but it's blanks. And come to find out, nobody had contacted them. But oddly enough, nobody came by.
Are you kidding me?
I was waiting for a cop to come by so I could, let them know ahead of time before they get a call for gunfire. So I actually flagged down a cop. We're right at the corner at the Wells Fargo building. And Danny is there with a deactivated Judge
There's a guy
revolver.
Nobody's calling
And
cops.
I see him,
shit.
and I see him, and I thought, oh, he's coming by because he heard that he's going to check things out. No, I kind of flag him down, and he rolls down. No, he was just on his way home. And I flagged him down. I said,
my God.
Did dispatch ever get a note? No, nobody ever told us. We're there firing these guns off. I mean, it's so loud, car alarms are going off.
They're all but a gunshot sound
Yeah, and nobody came by.
in Salt Lake City.
And on Thanksgiving
I
weekend.
find that really hard to believe. Yeah.
I have more stories. Ogden is a great one. I remember we were doing weapon handling for an NRA show, an NRA series about true crime, and they were reenacting one at a pawn shop in Ogden. And one of the scenes that we had to do, like I said, like 20 times, was a bad guy running out the front doors of this pawn shop with a gun and running, down the walkway and down the sidewalk. And they had moved all the vans, they'd moved all the lights to inside because the scene was was being shot from the inside, and it was just ancillary that he would run out. So I'm standing out there, and I've got this kind of overall that says firearm instructor on it, but it's not real obvious. Anyway, so we've done it a bunch of times. I look to my left. I just happen to see out of the corner of my eye, probably, I don't know, 60, 70 yards down the road, there's a cop doing the peekaboo around a mailbox or around a hedge. And I look to my right, there's another one. I look behind me, there's another one.
Oh, shit.
They'd got a call that somebody was,
this is gonna get
running in and
real
out with a gun. Anyway,
like we gotta talk. We're gonna talk.
Yeah. So, and I knew that he would, and these cops were all in position now.
They're getting ready.
And I knew that any second the kid was gonna run out with the gun.
Oh my God, they'd have killed him.
And all I am is a weapon handler. I have no power on the set other than to take guns away from people. And I just start yelling, because they can't. And I figured they can't roll film and start
because you're going to be screaming
if I'm screaming. And so I just start yelling.
Fuck, I'm glad you did.
Don't move. Anyway, long story short,
holy shit,
it was pretty obvious that it was a movie at that point or a show.
Yeah.
They still had the guy. I mean, he looked like a really good makeup had done him good, and they had him down on the ground in handcuffs.
That's all but a real scene.
Everything, yeah.
God, he would have
had him down. Even until they,
Jesus.
And he was probably down on the ground for 10, 15 minutes until they had it absolutely. And I remember Chief Randy Watt calls me up, and he was the Ogden City chief at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, and so I'd called the office or something, kind of smooth things over. And he says, Aposhian, he says, I figured you had something to do with this.
Well, I swear it wasn't me. I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I was just there with the gun guys. That's some crazy stories, man. That blew my mind when you were telling me that up there. That was an interesting. We were gonna do all this sophisticated talk. Hell with that. That shit was fun. I enjoyed that. Well, we got a ton of questions. Are you cool with answering some?
Of course I am.
Did my wife sent you some? Was there any of them you would like to elaborate on?
Who's my favorite sheriff? It's got to be Sheriff Labrum in Uintah County.
Okay.
And you know why?
Why is that?
He, without asking any questions, without putting any prerogatives on it or anything whatsoever, he supported and supported to the county council to make Uintah County the very first Second Amendment sanctuary in the state. Of all 29 counties, my own county now, that I claim now, Uintah County.
That's cool.
Because I moved up there a year and a half ago, is the very first sanctuary one. And he didn't put anything, and I've talked to the guy, and he's a straight shooter, man. He is a county sheriff from a rural area, and he has to deal with the stuff. I mean,
sure.
Other than the city of Vernal, which has its own police department, everything else is out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And he expects people to take care of themselves until they can get there.
What's wrong with that?
That might be 45 minutes.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there isn't.
That's good. That is a good one. I like that. I didn't know that. That's a cool. What other did she have another?
And she had another one that said, "Who's my least favorite sheriff?" And I got to tell you, pretty much any sheriff that's in Salt Lake County. Not sheriff deputies. I stand behind those guys.
Absolutely, I feel what you're saying.
The sheriff themselves.
I see what you're saying.
We've had a run of sheriffs that just, well, you know what? A sheriff is an elected position. It's not appointed.
Sure.
It's not appointed by the mayor, the city council, the city manager, and it reflects the mood of the population.
Sure.
And that's what the sheriff does. And so, unfortunately, it doesn't reflect my mood, but Salt Lake County Sheriff, I know Rosie Rivera, who's the sheriff, and she's a good person.
Yeah.
She really is.
Yeah.
And I would never run for Salt Lake County Sheriff. Because I don't want to have to represent some of the views that would be antithetical to what I believe in.
Well,
but anyway, yeah, that's why.
Them are great. That's great, man. I like that. You're pro cop. I know that. Pro cop is a thing here. I think our state as a whole is very with that. I think we're all. I think we are though.
Yeah, and as I work up on the hill, as a lobbyist.
Yeah.
We get a lot of issues. Whether it be something to do with concealed carry or the state gun or whatever it is. Almost without exception, and I can't even think of an exception, but rather than make it an absolute, almost without exception, the fraternal order of police, those that represent the rank and file cops, the on the street guys, those kind of things, they're always in line with us, in line with our thinking, and support us. But when you get to the Chiefs of Police Association, they're almost always against us.
Why?
Yeah, because it's so political.
God damn political.
So political.
I don't even understand that, man.
Yeah,
it's sad.
Yeah.
One of the most questions that we hear a lot is Concealed carry now, right, is no longer needed. Is that
May 5th.
May 5th?
May 5th.
No longer in the state of Utah do you have to have a permit to conceal a firearm.
Correct.
Is that still in play if you have a medical cannabis marijuana card?
Nope. Medical cannabis, and here's the problem, is that you have the two, we won't say competing sides, but
Right.
federal law
Fair.
trumps everything.
Okay.
Federal law trumps everything, and written into all of our gun laws is a recognition of federal law.
Okay.
So you have to not only be, cool and kosher with Utah state laws, they always write in, and federal laws.
Okay.
So the problem is that the state cannot, it's
complicated.
Yeah, what we're hoping for is that the state won't step in, and they'll leave it up to the feds. And if the feds want to arrest you, then let them arrest you. I would hope not. But
Right.
I think that. Well, I think it's going to occur federally that marijuana, whether it be probably recreational rather than just medical, is going to be federally allowed.
I think so too.
Oddly enough, nobody's talking about it though.
That's kind of weird.
At least they talk about everything else, but that. But the problem is if you're in possession, if you're a user, it's right on the 4473 when you buy a gun.
Okay.
Is that if you are a user of an illegal substance, like marijuana, and it's federally illegal. And technically, under state law, it's illegal in certain circumstances.
Right.
If you don't have the right thing.
Right, medicinal.
You're already, whether you have a gun or not, you are a prohibited person at that moment. If you then bring a gun into that situation, you're now illegally in possession of that gun. Already, you've committed a crime just by bringing those two things together.
So it's not necessarily illegal to have firearms and marijuana. It is illegal to have them both in the same circumstance.
No. I mean, just if you have access, if you have what they call constructive possession of a gun, doesn't mean it doesn't have to be loaded, doesn't anything like that, and you can have a permit all day long, but the moment that you are a user,
yes,
or whether you're using it or not, and that's an interesting thing. I want to bring that up too.
Please,
is that then
you
have a gun, you're a prohibited person. You're a Category 1 prohibited person.
Okay.
Not like you're a felon already, but it's almost like that. Now, it's interesting because, and I think this is where we really need to get some due process into here.
Absolutely.
We really need to get some people thinking about this because in Nevada, the first case happened in Nevada about 6-7 years ago, medical marijuana, where a gal had a medical marijuana card.
Yes.
And she went to go buy a gun.
Okay.
And those databases in Nevada were somehow linked. And she was arrested for attempting to buy a gun for a medical marijuana user person. Now, and she said, hey, I don't even have any marijuana. I just got the card just to show support for this thing.
Right.
So my point is, how can she be prohibited if she doesn't actually have the marijuana? She just has the card, and that's what they're talking about here. Even in Utah, if you get the ability through a medical marijuana card or a prescription,
which they are available,
it's the same. It's the same as having the cannabis yourself.
Right.
And I mean, how does that work? That's
how can you have a gun, concealed carry firearm, and go to the Maverick and buy 60 fucking beers?
Well, exactly. Well, what if you just had the concealed carry permit and see the BCI, the Bureau of Criminal Identification? Yes. Will stop you from getting a permit if you're a cannabis user. But having a permit doesn't mean you have a gun. It just says you have a permit.
That's true.
And having a medical marijuana card doesn't mean you have pot. It just means you have the card.
And why is it even relevant when you can buy alcohol and do ungodly things on alcohol?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
what were they saying? I mean, if you're drunk on alcohol, you speed by the stop sign just at 50 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And if you're on pot, you stop at the stop sign.
Obey all the laws.
Sit there and wait for the light to change.
I don't know how much better it gets said than that, Clark, but thank you very, very much for that. And that's a fact.
Yeah.
All inhibition is gone, and that is a sad thing. If there's any way I can help that something happen, I am that guy. I am very pro both of these things. I'm very pro marijuana, very pro. My wife is a cannabis user. She has a medical card, and I am more pro-gun than any guy you will ever meet in your life.
He's gotten a lot of grief for it, but a friend of mine, Connor Boyack with the Libertas Institute in Utah, has really been integral in getting that medical marijuana card, and we have worked together on the firearm medical marijuana card issue.
Yeah.
And so I think get in touch with him. Go on Facebook or Twitter or whatever he does.
We'll write it down.
And he's a huge libertarian. I mean, he is the libertarian focus in the state.
Gotcha.
So yeah, Connor Boyack, he's a good guy.
Okay, we're gonna look into that because that's a very interesting angle, and with what we do here, we're very pro both of these things, and I think there's a way to integrate the two, and they are not in any way, shape, or form is it a bad move to be able to do both of these things. I really don't believe it is.
And I think whether you like it or not, there's going to be movement federally. I think eventually, because you've got so many states. Isn't it more than half the states now? I don't know how many states it is, but I mean,
legalized marijuana.
When Utah has it legal, like we do, I mean, even though it's medically only, you got to know that there's going to be the rest of the states are going to come on.
I think
they're going to all say, if Utah
38th.
has it, why can't we have it?
It's absolutely true. I think we're 38th, actually.
Is that right?
Utah's fairly innovative in a lot of things. We're very quick moving, and usually, I don't know about where you're at and the things you do, but sometimes some of the edgier stuff gets moving quick. It's really
well, yeah. I mean, but as far as guns go, I mean, common sense. What I call common sense carry, or constitutional carry. We were 16th.
God, really?
16th or 17th. Yeah,
I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah,
because we are an absolute gun-loving state, as far as I know.
Yeah. Oh, we are.
Do you believe that our crime? I've listened to one of your stats, and it was like 60-something in the world or whatever for
66th.
66th in the world for gun.
So there's so when you talk about what they call MVSs, multiple victim shootings.
Okay.
And there's a general metric for it. 4 or more people in one instance shot or killed, injured or killed. And there's 3 things that they look at. Was it a family dispute?
Right.
Was it was it gunplay for during a robbery or something like that, some illegal activity, or was it just a hate crime? Somebody was focused on they don't like these people.
Yeah.
That kind of a thing. And the multiple victim shootings. And I just heard Biden say it the other day, and I've heard everybody say it. We're the only country in the nation or the only country in the world that has these kind of things. No, the fact is that if you look at all the countries, all the individual countries, and yes, it includes some really tiny ones, but it also includes big ones. We are number 66th in frequency and I don't know if we're 67 or 68 in the number of people killed, each year with multiple victim shootings. So I'm not saying that any is great.
No, it isn't. But
the fact is, if you're going to if you're going to work the problem, you better know what the data is. And
absolutely.
And then they say, well, you're including Swaziland, and you're including all these little Kuala Lumpur and all.
Is that a country?
Well, yeah, and yes, if it's a country, yeah, exactly.
It qualifies.
So yeah,
yes.
And so then if you just wanted to, we'll play their game with just European countries. Some of the bigger European countries.
Okay.
We're 12th. We're in the middle. In fact, when you look at this data, when you actually look at the raw data, numbers and frequency, we're less than half of what the average is. We're less than half on frequency, and we're less than half on number of people killed.
Why would we not talk about that? Why is that not something that is talked about just as bad as the negative is out there?
But you know how they do? You have to learn how these hand-wringing bedwetters, how they like to manipulate the data. So they'll take a list of, say, 24 countries, and we are right in the middle of that list. I mean, like we're 11 or 12. Then what they do is they completely disregard all the numbers 1 through 11, and they start at the United States, and they say, look at this. United States is top of this list.
Why do we do that? That can't even be right.
No, of course not.
It's not. That is frustrating.
But and with Google nowadays and the ability to look at data and this kind of stuff, we should question these things.
Right.
And when you do question them, you start to look at the actual data from even the CDC, the FBI Uniform Crime Report, this kind of thing, and you can actually see this kind of stuff.
You can get the information.
And then even then, you've got countries like China, which are misreporting on purpose because they can. They control. I mean, the state controls everything, all dissemination of information and what the numbers are.
Right.
And, nation states like Russia or, and then these other ones that don't even keep records sometimes on multiple victim shootings. So you're dealing with that, but and you have a tendency, obviously, to have lower numbers.
Right.
That are reported, but yet the actual crime is much, much higher.
That's just sad that that's not talked about. It really is. With all the other information, I think it all should be about the same to receive it all.
Yeah.
I seen you mic'd up a second ago, Dre. Did you have something, or was you going to do that?
No, I got the question.
Let's see.
Did you want me to play the question?
Yeah, we could do that. Because I got a pile of them too that are really, really good, valuable. This is good stuff. You got that one ready? Oh, let's do that one. Let's do we have a live question for you.
Do you consider the ammo shortage as a supply and demand issue, or maybe a coordinated effort to keep folks from exercising their Second Amendment rights?
Both.
Absolutely. Good question.
So,
great question.
So supply and demand is huge.
Okay.
That is what is driving a lot of this. However, we get a lot of ammo imported into the United States. Lead and copper and primers. We get a lot of primers from Asia. And when those things are it doesn't take a congressional action to delay or to put roadblocks up to shipping or primers, especially primers, because they're one of the four components, bullet case, powder, primer of ammunition, that it doesn't take much to stymie that entire round of ammunition.
So is that
just with blocking primers, and the EPA gets into it because primers are an explosive. Two, they have heavy metals, nickel and cadmium, and
right
that in them, and so they do that, and then they start to put a lot of roadblocks up. But so we do have a supply demand from the components overseas and that kind of thing. So that's one. And lead is another heavy issue with the EPA and that kind of thing.
Right.
And reclaiming lead in the United States has become much, much harder to do. So we've got that. But then supply and demand, it used to be people would just go to the gun store and they'd see 9mm ammo, and if they needed a box, they would buy a box. If they needed a case, it was on sale, they would buy a case. Now, if you see a box of 9mm ammo on the shelf, you buy it.
You better have a lot of money
or not. Yes, exactly. It's up a buck around.
It is ridiculous.
And I've told people on my radio show, Gun Radio Utah, no apologies, that I told them 2 years ago. I said, you know what? I know ammo prices are high, and there was a little cyclical thing there where it was hard to get 380 and 22. Mm-hmm. And I said, we are going to look back very soon and call these the good old days.
Yeah.
And here we are. Here we are in 2021.
You made a prophecy.
And those were the good old days.
Is it going to get worse? What's worse, right? It's going to change.
As far as the supply and demand thing goes, you always get more call for concealed carry classes and more people buying semi-automatic firearms and concealable handguns and buying ammo right before an election.
True.
But now it hasn't stopped. It hasn't stopped because, well, for whatever reason, it just hasn't stopped. And people see, and here's my theory on it. Why are people buying so much? Because they understand that they are vulnerable. They understand their vulnerability. And they say, they buy toilet paper and like they buy water and paper towels or whatever else they were buying.
Right.
Because they're afraid they're not going to be able to get it.
That's sad. That's not the case, though. If we would all calm down, I think we could be okay. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Why can't we make our own primers here? Why can't we do these things in U.S.?
EPA primarily.
Okay.
Because of how now we do make our own primers here.
Okay.
But it's
not enough for the supply.
Yeah,
or
definitely
demand.
not enough.
Okay.
So, and it's extremely different to make primers. You're literally making a tiny explosive.
Gotcha.
As opposed to the gunpowder, which is just a propellant.
So it's easier to just get. It was anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, Clark, what are we going to do about all this? What places aside from the EPC and the GOA can people donate to their Second Amendment rights to keep their constitutional rights in place? Is there other places?
The Second Amendment Foundation, the Gun Owners of America, those are both great.
Is there other ones?
And you notice I left out the NRA.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, when the NRA fires Wayne LaPierre and gets rid of most of its board, unfortunately, which are propping up Wayne LaPierre, the president of the NRA, then I'll encourage people to give tons of money to the NRA.
Oh, that's great.
But right now, until they do that, I'll let this out there. Yeah, I still give. I'm a life member, but I still give my dues, and I still give yearly checks to the NRA, and I do it, and I bite my tongue and grit my teeth when I do it, hoping that the money I give is going to a bigger cause, and hopefully not paying for Wayne LaPierre's suits.
Hopefully,
whether it be his suits he wears or his lawsuits that he's got in, and I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted with the NRA. I'm disgusted with the board that keeps him on. But there is some hope. You give money to the GOA. They're the ones that are really behind a lot of these lawsuits right now that are in federal court and district courts in District 6 and 9 and 10 and 5. And they're helping out, and they're getting some. They got some wins. They got a win in 6th Circuit just recently. So, and in fact, I have a lawsuit. I have a lawsuit in 10th Circuit. So, it's that. But the NRA is big. It's necessary. But I sure wish they would clean house.
A little corrupt at the moment.
Oh, definitely.
Used to be a really good organization.
Yeah,
That's
I don't even
too
think
bad.
we know the half of it, but I think
don't think-
ultimately some people are going to jail. I think they're going to prison. Actually, when you get right down to it, I think there's going to be some people that are going to prison, and there may be some help in a lawsuit right now, in a bankruptcy court lawsuit, that the judge may, in fact, say, when you're out, and we're going to appoint an individual to run the NRA, and that may be the best thing.
Why don't you run for it, Clark?
No, I don't want that.
God damn, you'd be great for it. Listen to you. I don't know a guy alive that knows more about any of this than you.
All I have to do is just say, let me check with my wife first. Just say
We already
no.
know that answer.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen from where you're at. That's not going to happen. Let's see. Oh, you have the only legal bump stock.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a question here.
Yeah, that's a question.
You have the only legal bump stock there is that we know of, correct?
Well, yes.
Are you ever going to show?
Yes, I'll answer that yes, but I have to do a qualifier with it now.
Okay.
Because my case is going through 10th Circuit right now, and
Is that what the case was?
Yeah. There was so I literally sued Donald Trump and the ATF
Holy
and the attorney
shit.
and the United States Attorney General. So
God, that's a ballsy move, Clark.
yeah, it was huge. And so my attorneys are out of D.C. the New Civil Liberties Alliance.
Okay.
They're like what the ACLU was or would be if they included the Second Amendment in their things that they protect.
Wow.
Anyway, so it wasn't because I'm enamored with a bump stock. Quite honestly, bump stocks are nothing but a range toy.
Right. Piece of plastic.
They're tactically terrible. No law enforcement agency, no military in the world uses a bump stock.
Right.
But just because of that isn't a qualifier or shouldn't be a disqualifier for is it legitimate or not.
Right.
It is what it is. It does not make it a machine gun.
Right.
But the point is that can an agency, an unelected bureaucratic agency under the executive, under the presidency, basically the ATF operates under the executive rather than the legislative or judicial, can they make law? And can they make a law such that when for violating that new law that you go to prison for? And no, the answer is
Damn, that was ballsy, though.
I have learned so much about two concepts that you can look up on Google, and that the Chevron doctrine and the rule of lenity. And people are like, what the heck are those things?
Yeah.
Anyway, it comes down to it. Basically, the administrative agency, the ATF, overstepped when they said, and they declared in there what they call the final rule, this piece of plastic that basically has no springs or levers or moving parts is a machine gun. It has no barrel. It has no trigger. It has no
not a machine
firing
gun.
mechanism. It has no chamber. But they said it is a machine gun and now falls under the NFA, the 1934 NFA and the 68 one. And possession of one is a federal crime. So I said, well, that's not right.
I applaud you.
I said, the only people that can call that a machine gun when it wasn't a machine gun before is Congress. And Congress can, whether they call it a machine gun or not, can just say, you know what? Bump stocks are banned. They can vote on it. It'll go through the House. It'll go through the Senate. And I wouldn't doubt that it would make it. I bet you a bunch of milquetoast Republicans would probably vote for it as well in the Senate and probably in the House too. But anyway, that's the point is that an agency isn't supposed to. So, in fact, during the Obama administration, bump stocks came under came into light of the ATF, and they were asked to review them. Twice they send out letters to the manufacturer of the bump stock saying, no problem, keep doing what you're doing. This is not a machine gun. An actual letter, we have the letters saying, by their investigative branch, saying, no, these are not machine guns.
They're
They
not.
don't fall under. When you look at the statute of what is a machine gun, if it fires more than one round per single action of the trigger, it's a machine gun.
There's no trigger on a bump stock.
Well, there's no trigger on the bump stock, and it doesn't cause the gun that it's attached to. You still have to, each shot, the trigger has to be pressed. On a machine gun, you just hold the trigger down.
Right.
And anyway, so then they came back and they said, you know what, maybe we were too hasty. And they said the rule was somewhat ambiguous. And so we are now going to change our interpretation and call it a machine gun. When they did that, what they call the Chevron doctrine comes into play. And if it is the Chevron doctrine says an agency can interpret beyond what was normally held, interpret ambiguous or vague statutes. Okay, that's fine. But then I learned from my attorneys what the rule of lenity is if that interpretation then causes a crime to be committed by an individual, by a citizen, for violating this new interpretation, the courts have to give deference to the citizen and what they call strict scrutiny, which is the highest degree of evidentiary standard. And they didn't do that. So they were willing to, so anyways, long story short, my bump stock now, I technically still own it, but I don't possess it. It is on a shelf somewhere in the Salt Lake branch of the ATF office. I had to go there and turn it into them. But all the other bump stocks are supposed to be destroyed if you turned it into them, or you're supposed to destroy it yourself or whatever like that. And I'm sure everybody did that. But anyway.
Yeah, certainly. Certainly.
So, yeah. So mine is sitting on a shelf, and it's waiting until, the final rule.
So the other part of that question.
So it'll come to the Supreme Court eventually.
It's not going to happen where it's you're not going to use it in any video to show people how it works because you don't have it.
Well, I have a video. In fact, the day before I had to turn
that was
it
part
in,
of that question.
Yeah.
So they want to see your video. They're like, where do we find this video?
There are videos out there. The news has got me using it,
Okay.
and that kind of stuff. But
Look it up.
I was doing my best. It's on an AK-47.
Okay.
Or it was. And I was doing my best to get it to work, because it's not just a click on, click off kind of thing. It doesn't just automatically. There's a technique to it too, and bump firing. And I was doing my best to hold it onto a 20 by 30 target.
Not happening.
I was doing my best to keep those rounds in there on that.
Are you ever able to legally use 3-round burst or anything like that? Can you?
Sure, that's a machine gun.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I have machine guns.
You've done this then?
Oh yeah, I mean, I have. Yeah, I mean, I can. Well,
Or is that just?
I mean, anybody that practices enough, the qualification for an MP5 is put 30 rounds in a 3-inch circle on full auto.
So you don't have to be an FFL or anything like that to have 3-round to do any of that.
To do full auto or 3-round burst or 2-round burst or anything.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Anybody that lives in a state that allows it, like California doesn't, but Utah does.
I did not know that.
And yeah, you can, as long as the machine gun was manufactured and registered with the ATF, the NFA branch, before May of '86, you can own and possess that gun. However, you take a regular HK MP5 semi-auto, and the difference between the semi-auto and the full auto is probably $1 worth of difference, really, mechanically.
Right.
And you can buy an MP5 for probably, I don't know, $1,400 now. And a machine gun was going to, and that which was made in '86 is about $30,000 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you can keep them grouped in with that then.
Yeah, it takes some practice.
It's a little better than the bump
stock. It takes some practice. It's all about how you stand. and get your nose in front of your toes, get your weight forward, lean into it, and use a ton of rounds in practicing.
God.
And it's firing,
Nowadays we can't do that, Clark. Nobody can afford bullets anymore.
Yeah, it's roughly $800 a minute to fire the thing.
Holy shit! Are you serious?
Well, because you figure it fires 800 rounds a minute, and a round is roughly a buck a round now.
Yeah, you're a millionaire to shoot this. Don't do this right now.
So yeah,
that's a bad move.
That's just the 9mm stuff. So my wife, I gotta do a shout out to my wife Casey Jane, and so we were out there firing. I've got an HK-53, which is a 5.56. It's a real short, kind of like a little entry gun. I actually call it an exit gun when everything goes bad and you have to go back out the weekend. Yeah. So it's the 5.56. It looks just like an MP5, about the same size. And it fires the same rate as like an M16 does. Yeah. Anyway, but it'll knock you back if you're not holding on to it well and you're not getting your stance right. And we went out with I won't say who it was, but he's a big guy and he fires big guns and he hunts the big stuff all the time. And it was backing him up. Each little burst, would back him up and back him up and back him up. And here comes my little wife. And Casey Jane gets into her stance, dumps an entire 40-round mag and doesn't move an inch. And so she says to him, and they videoed it all. And she says to him, hey, if you want some tips, she put this on Facebook, and she says, hey, so-and-so, if you want some tips on how to shoot that thing, you just come see me.
You let me know. Just a little girl here. I'm just fine. Yeah. She can't be over 100 pounds. I love that. I think that's amazing. You guys are killing me. I got more question here.
Well, let's go.
Explain the red flag law.
The red flag law is a gun confiscation law.
Okay.
That's what it is. I mean, you can pretty it up with all sorts of things. It's for the mental health. It's for blah, blah, blah. It's for the children, whatever. It's a gun confiscation scheme. And what it says, it lacks due process. And we are guaranteed due process if they're going to put us in jail or they're going to take something from us, especially a right, which is in the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, the right to keep and bear arms. You want to mess with that right. I mean, you could mess with other rights like, your right to have a mailbox that's 4 feet high or, whatever, some ordinance or something like that. You can mess with that, and there's not a lot of due process required. But when you're talking about a fundamental right, what many would, including me, would call a civil right.
Absolutely.
The right to keep and bear arms, then you better come prepared, and you better go to court, and you better get a ruling, and it better be, based on an evidentiary standard that's the highest that you can get before you take something away from somebody that's guaranteed in that right.
Beautiful.
And the red flag law doesn't do that. In fact, the court hearing, the very first court hearing that yanks your guns away, you don't even get to know, you don't even know about it, let alone go to it. Yeah, I said that right.
Let's don't do that.
Yeah, and so it's a
civil
what they
war.
call ex parte, or one party, which is the party that's against you, goes to court and petitions for you to have your gun. And it's based on very subjective things. They're acting weird or they're doing this. If it weren't based on subjective things like a verifiable threat or you pointed the gun at something, then there's a crime that's already committed and you go to court and for that kind of thing and you can be arrested prior to that.
Clark, that's not good.
But this, we're talking about, maybe you looked at somebody sideways wrong or, did all that kind of thing. So what we're saying is the existing laws right now handle it. All this is it lowers the bar to take somebody's guns away. And if somebody legitimately shouldn't have firearms because of their mental status or something like that, there are existing abilities within the county, within the city, within mental health and that kind of stuff to do that.
Gotcha. Well, I hope it works. I know it's going to be broken, right? But that just sounds kind of scary to me.
So we don't have it. We have successfully stopped it for 4 years now in the Utah legislature. So and the first year people didn't even realize it, but we kept it, not even out of rules.
Is there anybody coming behind you? Because I'm scared. There needs to be apprentices under you.
I have a fantastic board. I got to tell you,
you need
I have
people
a fantastic board
coming up with you.
I am not irreplaceable. Absolutely not. And
I think you are.
I tell them they should fire me.
I think not.
But I'm not irreplaceable. My board is full of the most dedicated people that you can find, and our supporters, our members. We have a great wealth of information within our membership and just our general supporters as well.
What is your membership?
So for the Utah Shooting Sports Council.
Okay.
So, in fact, you can go to utahshootingsportscouncil.org, sign up, be a member, sign up, and just go for your alerts. You just get the alerts.
In a heartbeat. I applaud everything you do. It's amazing to me that You need to be doing this. We need you. God, we need you.
Well, and like I said, it makes my board makes me look really good.
I get it. I get it.
I mean, yeah, you see this in the back.
I get it.
That's what makes everybody look good.
We're all so needed, though, Clark. You're so needed. I applaud everything you do. What I've seen, I don't know enough about, but man, I am so happy there's people.
Well, thank you. I'm going to pass that on to my board too.
Fighting to keep what all hold so dear to our hearts, very, very dear and relevant and understood and right. God damn it, whatever's happening, we need to know what's happening, and we need the laws to stay there. And man, I applaud everything you do.
They're working on a thing. I gotta do a shout out for a guy named Gary Hughes and Sandy Hughes. Gary and Sandy Hughes are regular folks. They're they're straight shooters. I got to tell you in more ways than one.
No pun there.
And they're out in Heber. They're out in the city of Heber, and they're trying to get Wasatch and Summit counties to make themselves Second Amendment sanctuaries. And they are out there.
I thought you said they were.
No, Wasatch and Summit aren't.
Uinta. Oh, okay.
Uinta is, yeah. And they're working. And you know what?
God, that would
they're
be
going to
great.
get it, but they could use some help. So go on Facebook and look up Gary Hughes and Sandy Hughes. Fantastic folks that are making, and they have so many other people supporting them as well.
Right.
But
I'm so for that. I think it's beautiful. I really do. We had another question, didn't we? Did we have one more question? Oh, I thought we had one more question. Do you remember anything? Is there anything you want to cover? Is there anything else you want to throw into this? Because
I was trying to think. Yeah, we've got of course May 5th, and the only difference between the constitutional carryability starting May 5th and your permit ability is primarily one, you can't go into schools unless you have a permit.
Okay.
And you can go into schools, and we've had the ability to carry a fully loaded firearm at 18 years old, a handgun, in your vehicle since, for the last, 12 years or so. Concealed. Well, in your vehicle. Doesn't matter where it is.
It's concealed in your
You're
vehicle.
sitting on it. It's wearing. It's in a glove box. It's on the car seat. It's dangling from your rear mirror. You can have it fully loaded, and we haven't had any problems there. All this really does is you can put a jacket over it, but you can't go into a school or within a school zone unless you have a permit, a Utah permit. And you don't get that benefit of the $7.50 off when you go to buy a gun from a dealer, from an FFL. And you don't have your recognition of reciprocity with that permit. And we're good in 36 states.
Yes.
And
Utah's a good one.
that's an advantage to having the permit. But if you're just going to stay here and hang tight and that kind of stuff, then, you don't need a permit anymore. And all it really was, it got down to it was just jacket control. Because basically you could still carry the gun openly. You can put a jacket over it. And yes, there was some confusion. It absolutely can be loaded. There was a lot of confusion as to whether it had to be unloaded or loaded. The very first draft, the drafting attorneys left out, some critical portion of the code under 7610, 504, and 505, and that was fixed in the second and third drafts.
Loaded being chambered even.
Loaded and being chambered.
Ready, unsafe, ready, however that works.
Yeah.
Is that still, so with an expired permit, do we need to update these?
You still got to update them every 5 years if
Okay.
you want to keep your permit and that have that ability of the bypass of the background check and the recognition of the carrying schools and that. But yeah, it's $20 every 5 years, and you go online. And if you go online and renew your permit, you have to sit through a 10-minute video watching me. I had to watch my own video. Well, truth be told, I may have left the room while the video was on. But anyway.
That's going to be edited, though.
Yeah.
I think we could stand to watch a 10-minute video with you speaking about firearms.
Yeah, and it was it was actually about a very important thing, suicide. And we're losing a lot of veterans every day to suicide. We're losing a lot of people that think that this very permanent fix for a temporary problem is appropriate, and you gotta reach out. If you know a family friend or a friend or a family member or a neighbor or a coworker that's going through a rough time, why not ask them, hey, and you need me to babysit that gun for a week or so.
There's nothing wrong with
It's
that.
just between you and me. It's like, if you were drunk, I'm gonna take your keys.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna keep them. I'm not gonna call the police and say he's drunk and I have his keys.
Right.
No, it's just between you and me. And when you want them back, you get them back.
I like that. It needs to be out there too. That's great talk. And we deal with a lot of vets here and a lot of soldiers, and we're pro all that, man. We support all that.
Excellent.
I think that's great. What else you got? You got
I got
anything?
a question. So, for For those of us that don't have our concealed, but we want to get it, you said online. Is that only for renewals is online, or can you
because you don't have to, once you take the class, it's good forever. But you just renew online, on your laptop, and you're basically just filling out the form online, and you upload a photo, take a photo against a white background, and that's it. I do the initial classes, yeah. We still do the concealed carry classes, although because of time constraints and that, I limit it to groups and that.
Does that hurt bad business at all?
I don't care if it does. I don't think, and the reason I don't think it will, 65% of our permits were held by non-residents. And I was teaching a lot of non-residents because, in California, you can't even get a permit, hardly.
Right.
If you live in any of the major populated areas.
New York, God, there's so many places.
Yeah. And so, the major force that was driving our permits was non-residents who aren't even going to carry in Utah, so it didn't matter. So they're still going to get this permit. And then because of our huge amount of recognition and reciprocity, 36 states, we're right up there, near the top.
Yeah.
In those numbers, people are still going to get that permit. Even Utahns are still going to get that permit because we travel. We go all over the place. And odds are, unless you go to California or Oregon, you're going to be able to carry a gun in those states with that permit.
With our permit.
So I think an attrition, we might see a 1 or 2 or 3%, 4% attrition. But I don't think it's going to be as much. Now, some states that have gone permitless carry have seen more attrition because their permit wasn't recognized in many other states, and so they didn't have that value of it.
So say Highline, 27th Hour, any of my many businesses puts on a class with my listeners that want to get concealed permits. Is that something you'd be interested in coming down here and helping us?
You know what? If you're holding it here, absolutely. This is a fun place.
You hear that? Done.
This is a fun place.
Done. I can fill it with people. You say the word, and we're going to do it because I am pro Second Amendment right to the end of this world. I'm also pro marijuana, so that's very, very, very much a thing there, man. And I want to get to the bottom of that someday.
When I pulled up here, that's what I figured was coming out of the smoke shack. It was just smoke was literally. Your listeners don't understand how much smoke was literally billowing out of the air vent, and I'm like, either something's on fire or there's smoking thing. Either got the Traeger going. Or I don't know, it's high times. It's high times in there.
For all you listeners that don't get to see that, we have a lot of stuff going on here at the 27th Hour podcast. They put a lot into this, man, and that's the extra fog coming out of that fog machine. And Clark, I want to thank you, man, from the bottom of my heart. This has been one of my favorite episodes. You are a very, 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 very incredibly smart man, and I love to listen to. It so makes me feel good to know there's people out there fighting for things I hold dear, and how dare I not be involved in it more. But thank you.
Well, you're welcome, and like I said, I'm going to pass it on to my board. And
please do.
My pleasure. It literally has been my pleasure. This has been my. It not only for the questions but for the environment to be in here. This has been fun.
Well, man, I appreciate it. I really do. This has been a great episode. Did we miss anything? Did we get all our good questions, everybody? I think we did. We wanted, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for coming. We're going to do part 2 of this because I want to hear more about this if you're ever interested.
I look forward to it.
Clark, thanks for all your help, and stay doing what you do, man.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Goodbye.